Salaki. All right, coming back at you again. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Kakwadash. Want to give double honor to the Apostle Jesus that ruleth well, and peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect. This is Shaquak Corral from GMS, Virginia, coming back at you again. The Lord's will you be edified. This is Sirach 31, and it talks about money, and it goes into problems caused by money. Now we understand in a society which is wicked, has a bunch of injustice, oppression, poverty, and unfortunately, one thing for sure that's really good to have is understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. I will read the book of Ecclesiastes. King Solomon made a good point about pretty much wealth. He pretty much did a study, about riches, etc., about how a lot of things are vanity. So it's good to read about these things so it can, you basically can get abroad in this society much more smoother, opposed to as you see people now crashing out, losing their minds. And then overall, a lot of these people are crashing out and losing themselves is because they don't have the money that they once had to indulge in wickedness and filthiness and just splurge and buy a lot of things that's not needed. It's not necessary. A lot of people back in the day could buy 10 damn cars, bunch of houses, again, we all see what's going on, buy necessary clothing, abundance, or just bullshit, But Sirach 31 and 1, he says, worrying about money will make you lose weight and lose sleep. A lot of these people, they're going into their cars and crashing out. A lot of people have put themselves in debt to try to align themselves with a rich, abundance, and wealthy lifestyle and to indulge in the American lifestyle. This is a false society. This is all about lies. The commercial that they push, the NFL, NBA, the contracts they always proclaim, the TV, the movies that they put, that Hollywood had what's the word, has created to alter the mindsets of these people. That just, again, just being in abundance, fun, laughter, explosion, and just coercing your mind to just indulge and never be happy or never be content. One thing has happened to a lot of people have become ungrateful. And they have things. They have things that really the average person in other countries don't have. A lot of people, they're ungrateful as hell, but they have more than 10 pairs of shoes. You go to other countries, nope, a lot of people don't have shoes. You go to other countries, third world countries, they don't have not a fraction of what these people here in America are complaining about. But those people, the mother country, they would come over here and they would be grateful. That's why I'm just stating certain things. I've actually lived over in the islands and saw poverty, seen oppression, and been to other countries and been to different islands. You see the oppression, you see the poverty, and I'm talking about true oppression and true poverty. Barefoot, holes in the clothes, unfinished homes, mosquitoes, flies, pestering, flying around you. And I've been to Dominican Republic and I've seen the state of Haitians. And I've known a couple Haitians, and they talk about their state, the conditions in Haiti. But we all know, when you look at the condition of our people, is due to the fact that the so-called white man has pretty much put us in this predicament. And again, if you got a bunch of so-called, you so-called Negroes in America, one thing for certain, y'all love basically justifying and kissing the so-called white man's ass. So a lot of try to stick up, be the coon, the Sambo, the bootlicker, to pretty much justify the wrongdoings and the actions of the so-called white man in this system. But it is what it is. But one thing for certain, you will never live like the so-called white man, and it's best to stop envying the so-called white man, because what Yahweh Shah has in store for us is very, the odds you can't fathom. So going back, so two, worrying about business will keep you from sleeping just as surely as a serious illness does. So worrying about money, Jake is constantly trying to burn themselves out. Trying to set up businesses, and just trying to get all these lucrative and incomes. I get it. You got to render what's the Caesar, what's the Caesar. You have to pay bills. You have to how you say. I mean, you got it's excruciating. You know, the squeeze is getting harder. Esau's taxes and what is it? Apostle Todd goes into that inflation. The inflation has become crazy, and it talks about that in I forgot. I think Revelation 5th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. The wheat, the what is it? The penny. Roughly paraphrasing, but this devil has put this society in this state so he can squeeze you into the basically to the point of you will accept that MOTB. So again, verse 3: rich people work hard to make a lot of money, then they can sit back and live in luxury. And we understand, unfortunate, the ones that have somewhat money is those ones that unfortunately sell out and do things behind closed doors, or those are Edomites or those elites, which unfortunately had pretty much extorted our people. Poor people work hard and have nothing to show for it, and when they rest, they are still poor. So in this society, is basically is rich and poor. Verse 5: no one who loves money can be judged innocent. His efforts to get rich have led him into sin. Many people have been ruined because of money, brought face to face with disaster. Money is a trap for those who are fascinated by it, a trap that every fool falls into. And when you go into this society and how the way this money is even orchestrated, you should realize it's not even real money. And Esau goes around, and if anybody pretty much isn't for the dollar, he wages war on them. And if you, I don't, so let me slow down. And unfortunately, a lot of our people, they don't realize, pretty much the whole history of America, there was war waged on so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics to keep them impoverished and keep them low. So the how you said the playing ground wasn't even, it wasn't fair. Let me see. A person who gets rich without sinfully chasing after money is fortunate. Do you know anyone like that? Because you understand, the elites, Amalek, they're a nation of wicked, evil, demented, and their money really is war, bloodshed. And if they come to your establishment with an agreement or with how you say it, accusation, what is it? I forgot the fucking word. A business deal, etc. And then, unfortunate, you turn around. This man got you in submission. Everybody. that's has made deals with the America. Well, going back to Revelation 17, these people are what the other nation are realizing. This nation has really got them by the balls because they is not done fair. And just look at your average so-called person here in America, they're not living too good. Why? Because unfortunately, the illusions, going back to Isaiah 47, the witchcraft, the sorcery, that Esau portrayed as this was the place of abundance and luxury and free will. Well, you're starting to find out this is your prison. I'm gonna hurry up because I didn't even want it to be over 10 minutes, so I'm gonna continue on. A person who gets rich without sinfully chasing after money is fortunate. Do you know anyone like that? If so, we will congratulate him for performing a miracle that no one else has ever been able to do. If anyone has ever passed his test, he can well be proud. Has anyone ever known that he could get away with cheating someone and not taking advantage of it? If so, he deserves his wealth and everyone will praise him for his generosity. So basically, we understand, you're not going to become like the so-called white man unless you're doing what? You have done some type of heinous crime, wickedness, evil. And we all understand the reason why the so-called white man has the riches as he does, because what? Slavery. And there's no doubt about it. And then the funds and the fraud that the so-called white man did to the so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, and the West Indians, holding back their uh, their wages. It wasn't a fair game. It wasn't a fair. It was nothing done that was fair. And that great leap, 500 years of free labor. You just can't wipe that underneath the rug and just say, "Oh, black people are this because they're lazy." Nah, I mean, again, you go. There's many books out here that'll tell you how the so-called blacks of America contributed pretty much to everything in every sort of society, everything in the society, even to the wars, etc. Building the wars, fighting wars, and gaining. Man, I just read a passage in Dr. Claude Anderson. I wish I could remember what page it was, but it pretty much tells you that the so-called black people here in America, they enacted in every pretty much war that was ever fought here in America, hot or cold, and then to be treated unfairly and pretty much was to come back to be told you were free, but then behind closed doors, um, they were setting up laws to pretty much put you back in slavery and take your money that you rightfully obtained. So, got a couple of scriptures about being content because ultimately, you know, as waking up to the fact that you're a Hebrew Israelite, you know, and us being pretty much called second class citizens, well, fifth class citizens, or and half human, half animal, whatever. We've been pretty much told that we got to entertain and perform and go to the max. No, we don't have to prove ourselves anymore. We know who we are. And we know who the so-called white man is. He's the goddamn devil the Bible speaks of. So we don't have to prove ourselves to the world. It's like you go to Lamentation 4:19. We waited for a nation that, help that was never there. Hebrews 13:5. Let your conversation be without covetousness and be content with such things as you have. For he has said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Because one thing for sure, it's in this world we was told to just live in abundance, want, greed, etc. But I mean, we as a people have had many examples of our people living that Hollywood and American lifestyle, and then at the end of it, they died poor, broke, and just they had nobody. They died alone, and that's unfortunately, our people don't grasp that, and they don't want to grasp it, and they don't want to look towards that. So I'm gonna read this, 1 Timothy 6:6. But godliness with contentment is great gain. because the most thing that we have gained is what? Our identity. And we have woken up to the fact that Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, he loves us and loves us only. He has a kingdom waiting, prepared for us. And we're not going to pretty much have to work or do anything, but keep order and righteousness on the earth through Yahweh Shah. Verse 7, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But again, a lot of our people are what? They're just niggas, man. They're just low, have a low vibration, and they want material to fulfill them. But ultimately, it just continues the emptiness. Once they get that little fancy thing that they crave for, then it's like, okay, I got it. So now what? It's just a never-ending cycle of greed and want, and then it's just what's the word for it? You just become worse. But that's unfortunately what we've been conditioned as a people and programmed to love material and not to be thankful. The worst thing you ever, one of the worst things, out there is, as a man, you don't have a place of your own. Or you don't have a place to live. Homeless, starving, begging. No clothes. But one thing for certain, us being as a nation as a whole, we've been pretty much brought up wrong. Let me see. One of the I should have kept going, Salaki. 1 Timothy 6:9. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. Because one thing for sure, if you want to be part of the society and get those riches, you're going to have to do something that Esau pretty much has an advantage over you and have dirt over you. So it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through many sorrows. But thou, O man of Yahweh Shah, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called, and has professed a good profession before many witnesses. So you see that? So that's what we'll, how you say, through being content, we can follow these things and not worry about the things of this world, because everybody in this world, they're not even worrying about these things. They're just worrying about their own selfishness. Because like it tells you in the last days, people shall be selfish, greedy, lovers of themselves, and just all obnoxious, greedy as hell, hard to be around, hard to fathom, etc. There's a couple more I'm gonna end it. Let me see what this says. 1 Corinthians 6, 1 Corinthians 6:9. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh Shah? Be not deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, because that's all things of this world. And unfortunately, these actions and this way of living has been enhanced in these last days, and pretty much people want to get rich, and people want riches and want wealth because so they can partake in these things. So there's no thieves, no covetous, no drunkards, no revilers, no extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of the Most High Power Yahweh. Because you got to remember, this is the push in America to do these things. And if you want to be a part of this society, part of this world, you have to partake in these things. If you want to move higher in the society, higher in your job, hey, best believe there's a person out there waiting for you to be devoured and be, they'll see your desire to do what it takes, and do whatever that it takes. So 1 John 2:16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And this is one thing that Esau drowns the people in your mind to believe that this is right and you should obtain all these things. But unfortunately, you trying to have a rat race to obtain these things, you burn yourself out and you're gonna eventually crash out. And this is why ultimately you got a lot of people going into their cars crying and hollering and screaming, spit flying, noses running, snot, etc. Fake tears, ready to crash out, because ultimately the whole crashing out is because what you don't have the funds, and you don't have pretty much the time and the energy to try to obtain these things that you want, to really this is to please the flesh. And if you always want to please the flesh, you will never ever ever be happy or never be content. And that's why one thing for sure, for certain, through Yahweh Shah, we have a great advantage over all these people. Because ultimately, the Lord has given us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and know what's important. Because one thing, and even going back to the book of Ecclesiastes, of King Solomon, it even tells you what's the whole duty of man is to fear Yahweh and Yahweh Shah. So again, we through Yahweh Shah have coming back to what's really important into life for real. And that's why, again, we know to render unto Caesar, and it is what it is. And, yes, I'm not trying to say that we're fucking lames or dweebs or corny or douchebags or scumbags or just some niggas that are just cooped up in our rooms and look at the wall. No, no, no. If you ever really get to know us, you'll be like, yo, like, damn, these guys are very different. But overall, what I'm saying is, you gotta, hey, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Can't love money, you can't love the things of this world, and pretty much you can't follow the ways of this world. But overall, you got to be content. You know, can't always be greedy and want more. But unfortunately, I'm going to shut it down. Those of you that are 5 with them say shalom.